So I know by now a lot of people are seeing a lot of controversy, a lot of things that are centered around race issues, and a lot of debate around just skin color. And, you know, people's nationality, where they come from and where they were born, and, you know, what they look like. Well, don't let that be a surprise, because here, Spokane GOP chair defends white nationalists. And so none of this should come as a surprise to anyone as to what time we're living in as well in terms of race issues. And so you see this person pictured here. I'm going to pan up and actually go through the article, but there's a lot going on. It's been here. Victim of label lynching. Okay. Cicely Wright. Let's look at this picture here. These are the white nationalists carrying these tiki torches. Okay. And this was in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017. And this is where some people actually lost their lives in these marches and protest there. And Cicely Wright, the GOP chairwoman of Spokane County, Washington, defended white nationalist elected party official James Alsop this month, weeks after attempting to distance herself and the Republican Party from the self-described pro-European nationalist. So speaking at July 11 event hosted by the local conservative group, Wright warned her audience about a problem she called label lynching. They call it label lynching, okay? According to her, conservatives are increasingly at risk of being unfairly assigned designations like white supremacist and neo-Nazi. So to help demonstrate at this point, she introduced the surprise guest, Alsa, who marched alongside white supremacist group Identity Evropa at the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia last year. So he was elected the precinct committee officer for the Whiteman County Republican Party, or Whitman. I said Whiteman because there's so much going on. It's so crazy. So this was last year after running unopposed. I have a gentleman here this evening who has been labeled lynched. Okay. Wright said as she introduced him. And so the problem with politics today, according to the 22-year-old Alsop, is that liberals don't try hard enough to understand the others. Instead of asking, why do you want to build a wall? Why do you care about strict immigration policy? And why do you care about these things? Why didn't you do this and why didn't you do that? It was racist, sexist, bigoted, xenophobe, transphobe, all the labels under the sun, Alsop said. So I was at the events in Charlottesville, he continued, which was totally misrepresented in the media. And so I'm just going to stop here. Basically, this sounds like the same guy who he participated in this march in protest. Some people got killed. And he's saying that people are labeling him instead of listening to him. And he's marching with a group of people who most people know what this group stands for. Most people know that they stand for pretty much only a white government and a white society. And, that's pretty much what has been touted with this group. And so they want to say that people are labeling them. They're labeling them, or they give them designations as white supremacist, neo-Nazi, and this new term that they have out now, label lynched. Okay. So they feel they're being lynched by words and by the words of labels. Okay. So he goes on to say, I'm going to go, I was at the event. So he admits that he was there, which was totally misrepresented in the media. And so it was not anything like they said it is. In a weekend of violence surrounding the rally there, dozens of people were injured, and a white supremacist allegedly rammed his car into a group of counter-protesters, killing one. So Alsop urged audience members to be unapologetic about their beliefs, even if liberals call them intolerant. So they want you to basically be complicit and listen to them and not label lynch them, and to hear their side of the story, which we've been hearing their side of the story for as far as many decades and many decades ago. And so you have transgenders teaching your kids. This is his point. You have gay agenda everywhere, and you have all this social degradation going on, he said. So he's using the LGBTQ people to start with, because he knows that people will start reeling themselves in, some of the ones that already have an issue with that particular group. But he's not telling you that there are other groups that they dislike. And so he's leaving that part out. You notice that? So you have all this social degradation going on, he said. So there are some things that we shouldn't be tolerant of, is what he's saying. There are some things that are just frankly so revolting that we should not be tolerant of them. And so he was invited to speak at the event by the Northwest Grassroots, a conservative group based in Washington State that hosts networking events and movie nights. And so according to its website, the group is careful to verify the information shown at the movie nights and avoids conspiratorial issues. So the night Alsop spoke, Northwest Grassroots played Hillary is America. The Secret History of the Democratic Party, a movie written and directed by conspiracy theorist Dinesh D'Souza, whom President Donald Trump recently granted a full pardon for his felony conviction for an illegal campaign donation. We see what's going on. We see what time it is. And so here, this is a Spokane County GOP chairwoman, Cicely Wright, who warned a conservative group in Washington State on July 11th about the problem she calls label lynching, being unfairly assigned designations like white supremacist and neo-Nazi. So what do you think she is? So she's got this thing called the movie night with the grassroots. And so all these groups here, she's trying to convince them that they're being labeled. There are words that people are calling them, like neo-Nazi and white supremacist. You're label lynching them. Okay, so basically what Black people have encountered in historical systemic racism and in history, actually physically being lynched, she say you're verbally lynching them with your words. Wow. Pretty clever. So it goes on to say that after Alsop was certified as the precinct committee officer, local parties officials, including Wright, insisted He didn't represent Republicans. Okay. So his past statements, affiliations, and actions are deeply out of step with the values of the Republican Party. Yeah, because he's really, really far, far right to the point to where it's vicious. And they're not telling you that. But there are Republicans that are like that. They're just not saying it. Well, some are saying it. They're saying it through their actions. And we see that with who's in charge right now, Donald Trump. So, as well as the values of Spokane County GOP and our members, she said in a statement in June, Spokane County GOP remains committed to standing against white supremacy, racism, and bigotry in all forms. Yeah, right. We will always support a free society where individuals are judged on the content of their character rather than the color of their skin. Wow. So they're basically using Martin Luther King's saying to support their doings here. Wow, they really, really, really worked overtime to construct all of this. So, Wright told Huffington Post that her husband, Northwest Grassroots, had John Charleston's invited Alsop without her knowledge. Okay, we'll see. Okay, Alsop said nothing controversial, but did not denounce the vile racist views he is associated with, as was expected, Wright wrote. Yeah, because he supports something totally different. And it isn't being kind to those of a different skin color. So pressed about whether she still believes Alsop was label lynched, she wrote, "We made a terrible mistake." Okay. There's no reason to defend him when he won't denounce his previous statements. Okay, it's too late now. You've already defended him. And now you've used a nice new term called label lynched. So they're going to run with it now all over the place. So local activists plan to hold a rally against white nationalism on Thursday in front of the Spokane County Courthouse. We cannot take for granted the integrity of our public officials when they denounce white nationalism in the press, while privately endorsing their leaders. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. We have people that are in government who they say they're not attached to white nationalists and white supremacy, but right here, it's telling you that they endorse leaders and their values. So the Reverend Walter Kendricks, a co-founder of Spokane Community Against Racism, said that in a statement. So Huffington Post reached out to Alsop on Instagram, where his posts mostly have been dressing like Richard Spencer fanboy. It's been addressing, see, and I think they missed that A there, showing off his muscles and theorizing that black men who are more muscular than him must be somehow cheating. Oh, wow. So he also posted a picture of himself glaring at a black man with the caption, "Winning the optics debate since 2017. Alsop did not respond to the request for comment. And so here's, I believe, Alsop right here with his MAGA hat on and his tiki torch. And James Alsop, my culture is not a costume. See, and this is him here. Okay, so being a precinct committee officer isn't a particularly powerful role, but it mainly involves visiting potential voters and figuring out how they will vote. But holding any role as an elected official, even one who ran unopposed, carries symbolic weight. Last month, Alsop bragged about his position on an Identity Everopa podcast and encouraged others with his belief to infiltrate the Republican Party. So basically, he wants other people with his same views to pretty much get themselves involved in politics and government and possibly get in some seats, hold some seats there. So you have a seat at the table, he said on the podcast. I'm not going to tell you that knocking on doors for the Republic knocking on doors for Republican congressmen is going to save the West or the European Americans, he said. That's not all what I'm saying, but it is a means to an end. The political involvement is a means to our political ends. And so he's basically trying to get people and rally them together so that they can hold those seats and pretty much put white nationalists, outright far right people in those political positions so that they can pretty much steer every topic in their corner. So this is him pictured here, and it looks like it, I don't know if this is Twitter. No, it's Instagram. So he's on Instagram. So if you see this guy right here, this is him. And so this woman had a meeting here, and I don't think she realized what she was dealing with. And so she pretty much gassed them up. And so now she can't take it back because now they're going to use these terms, what they call now as being label lynched, being called white supremacist and neo-Nazi. That's what they are. That's what they are. But anyway, with that article being said, any of the other articles that you see, don't be surprised. Cops, using, law as defense as a means of why they shoot Black people, and then why they use deadly bodily harm or force on people of color. And even, let's say the person does have a weapon. There have been times where people who are white have had weapons, and they've they've done everything to try to get the weapon out of their hand without having to shoot them. But if it's somebody that's of color, usually it ends in them being murdered. There's no negotiating, not for too long, if any at all. And a lot of times Black people are running from the police because they're already afraid of the police. And it's not a thing of they're trying to hurt anyone. That's the stories that we've been seeing, Of course, there are some situations where they have to use extreme amount of force to protect themselves and to protect bystanders. And so we're not saying that, but these things right here, when you see Spokane GOP chair defends white nationalist elected official as victim of, he's a victim. See, white people want to be victims. They always say that Black people have a victim culture. Well, they got a victim culture as well. So this right here is pretty much tells you that's what it is. So your thoughts, your feedback on this. And so their victim culture says that they want to label themselves that we're labeling them, label lynching them. We're lynching them by calling them white supremacists and neo-Nazis. That's what they stand by. That's what they practice. That's the kind of belief mindset that they have. Look at these people carrying the tiki torches. So there's no other way around it, So this is not label lynching them, When Black people really physically have been lynched, even till this day, we've seen some incidences that are questionable where they claim that people committed suicide. We know it wasn't suicide. Not when they have something around their throat like that, and they're in positions where they couldn't have physically done that on their own. But anyway, I'm going to leave this video go. This is just really ridiculous. So the term label lynching. Anyway, thanks for listening. It was crazy. Craziest thing I've ever heard. Label lynching.